Hicoberry. You could never be a star. You are who you are. The Hicoberry.
Yes. We are back. It's Hicoberry Mondays. This is your host, the Rebuker. I'm glad to be back. This is the third week of the show. We're going to be talking about Larry Joe Bird, the hick from French Lick. And before I get started, I would like to say hit the like, share, subscribe, notification bell, and if you want to donate something to the channel, the Cash App is always in the description. I also want to say I hope you guys had a great weekend. I know it's getting close to that time where you want to do the gift exchanging with your loved ones and have a good time and everything. I hope everything is well. Okay, let's get into the content. Larry Joe Bird. Larry Joe Bird grew up in French Lick, Indiana, which is about a couple hours south of Indianapolis, Naptown. He grew up there. It's a very small town that was mostly Caucasian. Probably in his time, it probably was only a couple thousand people in that town. It maybe only be a couple more thousand now. So you got to cut that in half when he grew up in the 60s and 70s. So he grew up in a very small town. I think it was him and his three brothers. I think he might be the second oldest, if I'm correct. And his mom and dad, they were together until I believe his freshman year in college. The dad got a divorce and he committed suicide. So Larry had to grow up in a very small town, and he married his young little high school sweetheart, and they end up having a kid, and he enrolled in Indiana University first. Now, what I heard was he had got into it with Bobby Knight, and they didn't see eye to eye, so he just quit. He quit school and everything and went and got a job and started working. And also, too, coming from French Lick, and you going up to Bloomington, which probably had at that time 40-something thousand people, that's like a whole new world to you. You like, wow, I thought I was from Hicoberry land, but it's 40,000 Hicoberries up here, so Bird didn't like that. And so he left, went back to French Lick, and then a year later, he went to Indiana State, which is like a couple hours away from French Lick, because Bloomington was probably like an hour away from French Lick. It was a little bit more closer to home, but Terre Haute is like a couple hours northwest of where Larry Bird is from, because Larry Bird is only an hour away if you go east to Louisville. So he was like in the middle of 2 hours away from Naptown, and an hour away from Louisville, an hour away from Bloomington, a couple hours from Terre Haute, where Indiana State is, and maybe only 4 hours from Cincinnati, from the Natty. So he grew up there. He went to Indiana State and enrolled in there, and that's when he just became a star. I don't think he averaged less than 30 points his whole time at Indiana State, and he always averaged like double figures in rebounds and stuff. He just really took off, and so Bird became a star. Now, he did have some help. It was always saying Bird did it by himself. No, he had Carl Nicks, and Carl Nicks averaged 19 points that year that they went undefeated. So he had a good point guard that knew how to distribute him the basketball. It's just in the championship, Bird didn't show up. Larry Bird went 7 for 21. He had 19 points, and I think he had 13 rebounds, but he just had a very off game, and Magic Johnson had the game of his life. He led all scorers with like 24 points and 7 rebounds, and he just took the championship. He did have Greg Kelsler, which was a great forward in college. Greg Kelsler was excellent. But Bird just, he had an off night, which every great player has an off night. And it just happened to be the championship. Now, the thing that trips me out is Bird got drafted in 1978, but played in the 78-79 season of college. So him and Magic Johnson did not get drafted the same year. I always thought Bird and Magic came out together, which they did, but technically Bird was signed to Boston a year before. So it kind of makes you wonder who would have went number one and number two, because Magic went number one that year. Who would have been number two? Because I think it was Bill Cartwright and Sidney Moncrief and Jim Paxson and all those guys. They was all in that draft. I remember Jim Paxson coming out of Dayton. All them Paxsons came out of Dayton besides John. I think John was the first one to go to Notre Dame, but Jim Paxson had a jumper. And I just remember Jim Paxson, man, he was a shooter. I remember in Phoenix when they had Cal Macy and the Greyhound and all those guys. That's when I first started watching hoop, was like around 1978, 79. 78 was when I first started watching basketball. But anyway, back to Larry Bird. Larry Bird he won that Rookie of the Year the next year when he went to the NBA, because he lost that championship, but he ended up winning Rookie of the Year, but they wasn't in the championship. Magic came out of college a champion and walked right into the NBA and became another champion. But Boston, the very next year, Larry Bird won his first NBA championship. But we're going to take a short promo break, and I'll be back with the next segment on Larry Joe Bird. This is Hicoberry Mondays, and stay tuned.
Hicoberry, you can never be a star. You are who you are. The Hicoberry.
Little ghetto boy, playing in the ghetto street.
Hey, we back. It's the Rebuker on Hicoberry Mondays. And what y'all know about that Donny Hathaway? Donny Hathaway is a Chicago legend. And Dave Hollister, I just remember that guy when he was with Blackstreet. He remind me of like Donny Hathaway 2.0, you know, kind of heavy set, kind of had the sideburns, the shades, the hat, the leather jacket. Dave Hollister reminded me of Donny Hathaway like 2.0. Anyway, we back to Larry Joe Bird. Larry Bird did his thing when he came in the NBA. He was the Rookie of the Year. He won his first championship the second year he was in the NBA. Now, just look at some of the 3 times he had. He was a 3-time consecutive MVP. He was a 3-time consecutive three-point champion. So, all the threes. He was a 3-time all-defensive second-team guy. And he is the only NBA player to be Rookie of the Year, MVP, Finals MVP, All-Star MVP, Coach of the Year, and Executive of the Year, just to give you some of his accolades on how great he was. Now let's get into the controversy part. Is Larry Joe Bird the best small forward that has ever played the game? That's the big question. Everybody talks about LeBron James. You got Scottie Pippen out there. You got Carmelo Anthony. You got Dominique Wilkins. You got Dr. J. You got all these small forward greats. You know, you got Hondo Havlicek. You got Elgin Baylor. Like, I believe Dr. J believes Elgin Baylor was the best small forward that he ever seen at 6'5", and he just grabbed a gang of rebounds. I think Elgin Baylor used to average like 20 rebounds at one time. Like, Elgin Baylor, he just had super bounce. It was like Kobe was like Elgin Baylor 2.0. That's what most people think. But was Larry Bird, or is Larry Bird, the greatest small forward that we ever seen. I mean, he played some of the best competition that you can play against. He played against the Bernard Kings. He played against the James Worthies. He played against a lot of Dominique Wilkins. He played against Marcus Johnson, another great small forward. It's a lot of small forwards that he played against that were great. Hall of Famers, Alex English, Denver. I'm just thinking of ones that come to my mind. They were great players and great small forwards that had played the game. And so when you really think about it, Larry Bird to average 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists for a career, that says a whole lot in a 13-year career. Now, there was some controversy too when I remember Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman had said if Larry Bird was black, would he be considered all that? And I know Isaiah Thomas probably said it out of anger because Boston used to spank him all the time, and he apologized, but Dennis Rodman didn't apologize. So Dennis Rodman was standing on what he was standing on, which I ain't mad at that either. I ain't mad at Isaiah for apologizing. It's okay to apologize if you didn't really mean something. But Larry Bird was just a different type of Hicoberry. And the only reason why I'm calling him a Hicoberry is because he went by the Hick from French Lick. He was just a different kind. Like, no, there will never be another Larry Bird. We will never, ever see another Larry Bird in the history of the NBA. A guy that was listed as 6'9", but probably was 6'9.5". Most people say he was 6'10". And just with the skill set, what did Larry Bird lack? He could shoot, he could pass, he could rebound, he could dribble pretty good. He made 3-time all-defensive second team, so you can't say he didn't have defense. He might not have been the best leaper, but Larry Bird always went up and dunked two-hand, and he got dunks on people. So what was he lacking? I mean, this guy was a phenomenal type of player that nobody had really ever seen and nobody could ever really duplicate. So we got to just give our props to Larry Bird. He's respected in urban communities all across the United States. He was one of the best trash talkers you could ever see and could back it. And he had those hands too. Larry Bird would put them paws on them Hicoberries. I seen him fight Mark Ivoroni, and then that guy for the Utah Jazz, he would just beat the crap out of them. He felt like, hey, y'all can't get with me in hoop, and y'all can't get with me from the shoulders. Bird was like that. He was like, if you ain't no brother on the court, I don't really respect you like that. Because he used to tell people, oh, you going to put the white boy on me? Oh, yeah, I'm going for 50 tonight. Bird was like that. He really was like that and could do it. That's why they call him Larry Legend. He's loved in Indiana, and he's also loved in Boston. The guy was just a different type of Hicoberry. I mean, he was great at what he did, and he did it well. Nobody can take that away from Larry Joe Bird. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end it right here. This is the Rebuker. Hit the like, share, subscribe. And if you want to donate something, hit the Cash App. And I'm out.